Confidence in football is such a strange thing, because the moment a player changes environment or adopts a completely new mentality, they turn into a different beast. Literally. And I can generally sit here and joke about Anthony's resurgence as a football player, but I genuinely can't. Because when a player is truly loved and appreciated, like Scott McTominay, with the midfielder literally having the season of his life at Napoli, they end up extracting the most out of their potential. However, I want to look at a different kind of player. A person who absolutely turns into a beast for a selective time period, but then somehow, for whatever reason, falls off a cliff. Today I'm going to talk about my personal eye-opening purple patches. But first, what is a purple patch? A purple patch can be defined as a run of success or good luck, or as we know in a modern game, a monumental run of form. And there's no better player to talk about than Marcus Rashford, who, which this may sound a little bit crazy, is generally one of my favourite players to watch on his day. And am I bitter about him being snubbed aside by Almiron? Of course I am, because there's clearly a quality player in there, as seen through his amazing performance against Newcastle. Because if we go back to the 22-23 season, this man was on fire, racking up over 39 goals and assists in 56 games, with over 17 goals in the Prem, 6 goals in the Europa League, and 6 goals in the League Cup, going on the maddest scoring run of his career so far, and scored in the League Cup final, allowing United to win their first piece of silverware since 2017. With the biggest standout points of his season was that iconic celebration. Now people may say he stole that from Ruben Neves or Tchouaméni at the 2022 World Cup, but my days, did he make that celebration special. Especially when he backed it out against Newcastle for a second goal, I could tell that he was back. But despite that 22-23 season, the season after, Marcus just simply didn't look like himself, with only a combination of 16 goals in the next 2 seasons. However, with initial loan moves to Aston Villa the season prior, where he showed class against PSG and almost getting them into the semi-finals, and now at Barcelona, where Hansi Flick is actually bringing the best out of him, it's not too late to say that we haven't seen the best of Marcus Rashford yet. Because if Dembele can win the Ballon d'Or by 28, who knows what can happen this season? Or we could have another memorable purple patch, which I hope is not the case. Now to speak about this next baller, we have to go back a little bit. Streets was closed, the world was in utter turmoil, but football was ultimately back. And what came with it was an absolutely special player that vanished off the face of the earth, and his name is Lingardinho. Jesse Lingard was an academy graduate of United that ultimately had talent, which most of you watching might have forgotten about, mainly because he plays in South Korea. But Lingardinho was definitely a problem, specifically at his time at West Ham. Never have I ever seen the man move with such confidence, other than the time when United made the Emirates Stadium their dance floor back in the 17-18 season, but feel free to prove me wrong. But to truly show you how good this man was, let me just tell you some of his stats at West Ham. In 16 appearances, Jesse Lingard had 9 goals and 4 assists, playing primarily as a centre attacking midfielder, where at one point he scored in 4 consecutive games, in which these type of numbers from Jesse Lingard hadn't been seen since the 17-18 season, where although he scored 8 goals in the Prem with over 6 assists, he wasn't necessarily the main man. But the difference is at West Ham, he now was. I think, don't quote me on that, with West Ham finishing a mighty 6th place that season, you'd think that maybe West Ham would try and buy Jesse Lingard the following season. However, that wasn't the case, with Jay Lings returning to United the following season, and later going to Forest on a free transfer, where he stayed for 1 singular season, never to return to Europe again. It's a real shame that the peak of Jesse Lingard was such short-lived. And yes, of course there was a player in there, he just needed the platform to showcase himself. But ultimately, like most fires, they need to be put out. Anyways, moving on to a player maybe some of you may have forgot, and he may be one of the most one-footed players I have ever seen in my life. But despite all that, Miguel Almiron decided to become the best player in the world for about 7 games. scoring in over 4 games in a row, scoring a career high of 11 goals in the Premier League. But if anything's a definition of a purple patch, is definitely Miguel Almiron, because after his injury against Nottingham Forest, it's like he reverted back to his old ways, with the man only scoring against Sheffield United, Burnley and Fulham that season, returning back to the MLS for the 25-26 season. But anyways, that was just my brief take on purple patches. I hope you guys enjoyed that video, and leave some of your purple patch players in the comments below.